Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lena. Today is a super exciting day because we're beginning the first of our holiday crafts for 2022. I have a lot of fun things planned, and today we are focusing on quilted oven mitts with a matching apron. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get started.
You'll need some cotton fabric and some bias tape. You will also need some heat-resistant batting. You can trace out your pattern with any oven mitt you already own or download my free PDF pattern from my website linked down below. You'll cut out 4 pieces of the glove with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. You can optionally cut out 2 pieces of a lining and 2 pieces of a shell. I just lined this with the same fabric.
Families near, we give thanks for this past year. Oh, nothing.
For the square oven mitt, you only need to cut out 2 pieces of the shell fabric. Again, do this with 1/2 inch of seam allowance.
A green red.
Now to cut out our batting. For the square, you just need 1 piece, and for the glove, you will cut out 2 pieces of the batting. After I made these, I realized that this batting requires some sort of lining, so I would get that as well if you plan to make this project. I'm using the same color thread as my fabric, but I think it would also look really nice to do a contrasting thread. We will start with the square mitt by layering the batting between 2 layers of cotton fabric. Pin it in place and quilt. Start by sewing a straight line across and then lining your presser foot up with your previous line and sewing next to it. You'll do this throughout the entire piece. Notice my fabric slid around a little bit, but I just cut off any really uneven parts. We're going to cover the edges with bias tape anyways. Then you just sew the same type of lines perpendicular to the lines we just sewed, creating a nice quilting effect.
To the love that we share.
Now line it with bias tape, and I just creased it a tiny bit when I got to the corners. Don't cut it off when you reach the end. Overlap a little bit and leave a few inches.
With glimmering silver wine, you dazzle us all, from big to small. Warm laughter and white smiles, my presence stacked in.
Here's why you don't want to cut it off. We're going to create a loop to hang your mitt with the excess bias tape. Cut it off at about 3 inches and then sew the bias tape closed on the open end.
Christmas Day.
Then pin it in place and tack it down. I sewed over my previous stitch line. Now this little finishing touch is totally optional, but I decided to put a couple jingle bells on my mitt.
Got you on my mind. I don't know how to cope this, because it's Christmas time.
Now we'll be quilting across both sides of the glove, but we will just be pairing 1 piece of cotton with 1 piece of batting. We will not be sandwiching the batting between 2 layers of cotton. Make sure that your pieces mirror each other because we'll now be sewing them together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance.
Something for me under the Christmas tree.
Make sure that when you reach the corner, you will sew down about 1/2 inch. Insert your needle, lift up your presser foot, and pivot so that you get a nice sharp corner. Then you can put your presser foot back down and keep sewing.
Oh, it's Christmas time. Let us all come together.
Then cut away the excess seam allowance, cutting that corner pretty short so you can turn it out nicely.
Yeah, 'cause it's Christmas time, and I want you by my side, darling. So come home.
Now you'll do the same thing for the lining, making sure that you pivot at that corner.
I try to figure this out. Yes, I did.
Insert your hand into the lining, and without turning it right side out, insert it into the glove. You can now cut off any excess fabric.
And let me hold you real tight, 'cause it's
Now line up the two side seams and sew all the way around, connecting the lining to the outer layer.
It's Christmas time.
Sew bias tape all the way around, leaving 3 inches at the end again to create a loop to hang it. Don't forget to sew up the open end and tack it down however you like.
Why you listen for me?
I also added some bells to this one. Now we're starting on our apron. Here are the measurements. This is the pocket.
For Christmas, all the happy
This is the waistband and ruffle.
and I wanted
Here's our little apron ironing station. I've got a bunch of long strips here. I went ahead and folded and ironed the thicker strips in half.
If any of your pieces don't reach the length they need to be, you can just sew 2 pieces together. Right now we're working on the ruffle. That is the 4-inch wide long strip that we ironed in half. I'm going to sew 2 basting stitches across the open edge, then knot one side and pull on the 2 strings of the other side to gather.
I lived the dream I knew this Christmas.
These ruffles ended up being a huge task. The fabric was a lot thicker than I realized, so when it came to gathering them, the thread broke and I had to go super slow and gentle. But now I have everything ruffled up pretty nicely, and I made sure that they were decently even all the way around. Now we're going to pin them between the 2 layers and sew from here to here. I'll show how I do that in the next clip. Alright, so I decided to add basically 2 rows of pins. I pinned down the top portion so that I don't accidentally sew over anything I'm not supposed to. And what I'm going to do now is layer over the next piece and pin along the line where I plan to sew.
I lived the dream I knew. Well, I'm all for
Now I'm just going to take out that first layer of pins, and you'll see how nice the ruffle looks.
take a walk outside and tickle the snowman's snow.
I serged the inside, took out those basting stitches, and ironed it down flat.
Now we have the gathering stitches taken out of the ruffles, and now I want to work on the pocket. I want to bring in the quilting to the apron, so I think I'm going to quilt the entire pocket. I just did 2 layers to make it a little thicker. And then what I think I'm going to do is add the bias tape all the way around the bottom and then leave the top just hemmed nicely.
I knew this Christmas I only wanna be close to you.
After I quilted it, I serged all the way around, folded down the top, and hemmed it down. I folded in the edges of the bias tape for a clean look. I added the pocket 4 inches down from the top, and I think that's a good starting point, but you could put it wherever you'd like. Make sure that you pin and sew the pocket only to the front layer of the apron. I'm
I'm now going to work on the waistband. That would be those 2 skinny strips that I created. I'm going to add interfacing to one of the sides to start. We've got our interfacing on, so now I'm going to sew it to the other long strip, just along one long side and right sides together.
It will look like this. I also serged it and then serged the edges. We're going to fold it in half now. Iron it and also iron in each edge by about 1 centimeter so that when you close it up, it looks nice like this. We're going to fold it back out and sew across each edge. Trim off the seam allowance and turn it right side out. Now that the waistband is prepped, we're going to pin it down. Bind the center point of the waistband and of the apron. I just marked that with a pin. Then match up the 2 center points and you can remove all of the pins that are on the waistband in the area that the apron will fit into. Be careful with this part, really slow it down, and place the apron in nicely between the 2 sides of the waistband, then pin it back down. Be sure to pin the edges of the ruffle into the waistband as well.
We're almost done here with the main construction of the apron. I would measure from here to here on both sides and make sure that it looks even. We are just going to sew along the bottom all the way through both sides of the waistband. To clean up the waistband and bring in a little bit more of that bias tape, I'm actually just pinning some along the bottom of the waistband, and I'm going to sew on both ends of it just to connect it. It doesn't reach the full length of the straps, but I'm just going to cut it so that it stops right where the bow will begin behind my back.
And here it is. To match the mitt set, I decided to add some jingle bells to the apron, but I may end up removing these.